Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Here we are. We've been through a third of the season already. We're moving into the middle of the regular season, and right now is when we should be hitting our stride. Whatever we've done, however well we've done it in the first third of the season, should be the basement as opposed to where we need to go towards the ceiling. And that needs to be our attitude with our crews, is that we have to be better this week than we were the previous week. And that applies to everyone on the crew individually as well as the crew itself. Would like to remind people that you have an opportunity not only to get loose during the pregame, but you also have an opportunity to get some reps in. So what I would encourage you to do is when the teams are warming up, particularly during two phases, when the quarterbacks are throwing to receivers, we ought to have our two short wings, two deep wings, and the back judge in there taking some reps, working on our footwork for everyone, so that we're recognizing when receivers come off and what routes they're running. Not only does that give us a little bit of a heads up in terms of what we can expect from that team, but it also then gets that muscle memory going for us in terms of what we've seen on video. Make sure that you go to both ends of the field, try to time it up so that you spend some time with both teams. That's important not only from the standpoint of becoming more familiar or reaffirming what you saw on video, also gives a good impression in terms of the two teams and how they view what we're doing. It would be synonymous with what we talked about with talking with coaches. Really, really important to make sure that it's done on a professional level and that we are striving to keep the amount of time that we spend with both of the teams, both of the coaches, in a similar time factor. Also want to talk a little bit about crew mechanics. We don't measure very much anymore. And that's a good thing in the sense of that we've figured out how to do that so that we don't have to have game interrupters when we don't need them. The downside of it is because we don't do it very often, we probably don't spend enough time on it so that when we have one, we're not necessarily as fluent as we ought to be. Observed a game recently where it was fourth down and the quarterback was flushed out of the pocket and was trying desperately to get to that front stake. And the chains were off of the sideline where they properly belong. And it was really, really difficult for me where I was sitting to be able to tell whether he had reached the line to gain or not. So we did not get a stop the clock signal. In this instance, we might have gotten a forward progress spot, but that didn't seem real obvious to me either. We relayed the ball into the umpire from the sideline, and everybody kind of is looking like, well, whose ball is it? Is it first down for the original offense, or is it first down for Team B? Well, then they decided to bring the chains in. Yes, I did not misspeak. After relaying the ball in from the sideline to the hash, now they bring in the chains and measure, and it comes up short, less than a foot. So a couple of things there. First of all, we need to be alert enough to know time, score, and situation, and we need to know the runner either made the line to gain or he didn't. We need to make those determinations right on the spot. If there's going to be a measurement in a situation like that, the measurement has to be right at the point where he went out of bounds, which means we're moving the chains maybe 6 feet as opposed to all the way into the hash. If the runner goes out of bounds on the opposite sideline, we got to pin down where that wing person is putting it out of bounds. And then we got to bring the chains all the way over to confirm either first down or ball goes over on downs. And I'm not sure those are things that we necessarily spend a lot of time on, but they sure are important when something comes up And this was late in the game. It really ended the game for the original offense. So some things to keep in mind. Just the general crew communication during the week. Can't emphasize that enough. As you're looking at your video, you should be calling people saying, hey, nice call on clip 25. What did you think about my mechanics on 43? All those kinds of things have to happen, as well as on our way to the car, on our way in the car to the game. After we get there, certainly our in-game communication, our halftime adjustments that we're going to make, the teams are making adjustments, we need to make adjustments. All those things are instrumental. And it's not just the referee's responsibility to be involved in these things. So we need to be thinking, we need to be talking, we need to find ways that we stay alert. The discussion at halftime shouldn't be about where we're going to go for a beer and a sandwich afterwards. We'll figure that out after the game is over. Last point tonight before we get to the video is that we're getting good people are viewing the recordings. So don't be concerned when you see just a few people on live. Like for instance, tonight we have some association meetings. We have some other functions that people have communicated that they're not going to be with us, but they're looking forward to the replay. So continue to share that. Invite people to be a part of our group so they can get the recording directly to them as opposed to having it shared, et cetera, et cetera. So we are somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 people strong with our distribution list, and we've got room for more. All right, enough with the preliminaries. Let's go to some video. And we're going to start with a game that from MHSAA officials. Now, what we're going to get here is the receiver is going to slant from the bottom of the screen towards the middle. And what you'll get two views of this. Now, number 6 I guess it's number 1, comes up and delivers a blow to this receiver. It's pretty obvious this pass is incomplete, but number 1 comes up and delivers a blow. Now, if you look at your rule book, Rule 232.16, got to read my writing here, D, you will see that this situation is specified. When a defensive player, first of all, when it's clear that the pass will not be completed, contact should be avoided. But in situations like this where he comes over the middle and an effort is not being made to tackle or play the ball, then the player is obligated to avoid contact, which he obviously does not do here. Now, ironically, after a step or two, he realizes that he's hurt too. But this is one that we need to get a flag down on because we're just not playing the ball. We're coming up with the idea of delivering a lick. All right, next clip. All right, we're going to get a punt here from the -40, and either with the wind or really a good kick, we challenge the goal line. Now, I realize the distance away is not going to give you the opportunity to really see what happened here. First of all, it appeared to me that at least the back judge is in cruise mode here. Once you recognize that this punt is going to challenge the goal line, we need to get busy. We need to get to the goal line, get stationary, and be prepared to handle this. We can't really see the timing of the deep wing at the bottom of the screen, but the same thing there. We got to get back and set up shop at the goal line. Now, the point here is not whether this is a right ruling or a wrong ruling. The point here that I want to bring up is when we're downing the football, particularly as it relates to the goal line. We have a similar situation to when we're trying to recover a loose ball near a sideline. We must have firm control of the ball while a body part is down in bounds. In this particular case, that's not a body part down in bounds. It's where the football is at the time that it is secured by a Team A player. And in this particular case, after consultation, they decided to go with touchback because the Team A player had not secured firm control of the ball in the field of play and did not do so until after the ball had broken the plane of the goal line. Good work by the crew. You'll notice they came together. The this is first half, I believe. So the field judge came clear across the field to get involved as necessary. But by the time he gets there, the side judge and the back judge have already determined that no, this is not a ball that's down near the 1 yard line. This is going to be a touchback. Now, when that happens, you need to make sure that someone goes to the referee and is very, very clear what we have. And then if we have a field mic, we want to announce the ruling on the field is a touchback. The ball was not controlled prior to it breaking the plane of the goal line. First down, 20-yard line. Okay, but we have to make sure we communicate with the referee because he's probably not going to know what happened down there. Okay, next clip. All right, what we're going to get here is a free kick. And obviously, the team in pink had scouted and saw that there was this vacancy right in the middle of the field. And the kicker probably practiced all week kicking this ball short in hopes of being able to recover it. He probably kicked it just a little bit too far. Because it allowed Team B time to get there. Now, the reason for this clip is pretty obvious what happened here in terms of the recovery. We want to talk, though, about similar to that previous play, what's involved with gaining possession. Now, part of the people in the front four here, if you clearly see that a Team A or a Team B player has gained firm control of the ball prior to the mass of humanity that comes in there, then you're going to give that ball to either A or B. If it's not clear to you, okay, now we've got to get in and we've got to make a determination in terms of who has possession of the ball. And then if we have joint possession, we should know that by rule, the ball is going to belong to Team B. Okay, so there's some things that we have to decide beyond just, does it go 10 yards? Was Team A legally blocking because the ball had crossed the restraining line or touched by Team B? There are a whole bunch of things, obviously, that we have to consider, not forgetting, however, that there's still the possession issue. And if we can clearly determine that it's A or B, then we need to make sure that that team ends up with the ball. All right, next clip.
Hey, Rich, can I ask you a question on that one?
Absolutely.
Do you want the deep wings, or should the deep wings be winding the clock when it's first touched legally
Good
by?
point, Gregor. Thank you. Thank you. That was on my short list here, and I got busy with those other points. If a player clearly controls the football, in other words, that ball does not rattle around at all, and he is grounded, then the clock is not going to move. However, if it's muffed, it's not firmly secured, then yes, we should have some time come off the clock. Might be 1 second, might be 3 seconds, depending on how long it takes for us to have firm control of the ball. But a grounded player that cleanly feels a kick does not require the game clock to move. Good question, Gregor. Thank you. What we're going to get here, this next clip is a good recognition of the depth of the kick. Now, we've talked about our baseball concept of an outfielder watching the flags constantly to make sure that he has a feeling for how strong the wind is, what direction the wind is blowing, et cetera, et cetera. So here's a case where this kick drives us deep, drives the kick returner deep, and we give ground to get back there. Now you'll notice that the deep wing at the top of the screen backpedaled. I would much prefer that we get a shuffle as opposed to a backpedal because eventually you're going to catch your heel and you're going to be looking at the sky. How do I know that? Because I've done it. So don't encourage, in fact, discourage backpedaling, but we do get the depth necessary to stay behind this kick and have a ruling of out of bounds. Good read by, let's see, this was early in the, I think this is 94. So this is second half, our side judge. All right, next clip should be 96. What we're going to have here is a demonstration of the value of a good cushion. We're going to have a play that's going to come to the bottom of the screen. Now we're going to get a catch, and it looks like, oh, he's going to step out of bounds. No, sir, does not step out of bounds. So if we're guilty of assuming that that runner is going to either be driven out of bounds or step out of bounds, there's no way that we cover this play at the other end of the field. So the value of a good cushion and also not assuming anything was in play on this particular clip. Good job by the back judge in the deep wing at the bottom of the screen. All righty, this one should be, we have a change of possession that's coming up here. It's going to be to the bottom of the screen. Defensive back is going to step in front of this. The short wing gets on his horse, gets downfield. That's as well as you're going to do this. All right. These are 16 to 18-year-old kids, and we're adult men. So we're just, we're not going to catch them. We just have to do our best to try to get as far downfield as we can. Now, when you see this happening, deep wings, there's no point running up to the back pocket of your short wing. Keep an appreciable distance behind so that you can follow players. Don't watch the ball. We've got eyes on the ball. What we need is to make sure that we keep the players boxed in so that someone doesn't do something behind the play that we're going to miss that will be problematic for us. Back judges, you're the center fielder. You're moving up there to back up second base on a steal attempt, if you will. But you need to make sure that that ball does not get behind you. No players get behind you, that you keep it right there in front of you. But what we don't want to do is, you can see that in this particular case, he's going to take the spot simply because he's the closest one to it through no fault of his own. So deep wings, when the play ends, stop about 10 yards from where it ends. And again, use good dead ball mechanics to watch players in the vicinity, clean up behind the play, and just let the short wing take it. We don't need to cut in front of the short wing in that situation. Okay. All right, next clip. I want to talk just a little bit about foul selection and communication. What we're going to get is a holding foul at the bottom of the screen. Now, this is a 5-person game, so we're going to talk about it from the standpoint of 7. We get a throwback here, and you're going to have a block that occurs there by a larger player against a smaller player at about the numbers. So we'll take this back. Now, it looks like to me that he gets outside of the frame. His left arm is going to get outside of the frame of the body right here, 54, right? But he maintains good leverage, right? So let that go. Now, if that runner goes to the outside, this may be a hold. We'll never know because he cut it back to the inside. But this player, the blocker, has the defender walled off legally and still has good feet, all right, good leverage. So in this particular case, we do not want a foul, and it's important that you understand why. This player cannot make a play on this runner because he cut it back to the inside. Now, if 54 has the jersey stretched and that sort of thing, doesn't have good leverage, sure, this is a foul. But in this particular case, no, this is not a foul we want called. Now, we need to finish plays. Now, if this was a 7-person game, this is going to get down around the goal line. So the forward progress spot, and I don't know whether he gets in or not. See, we don't get a signal because the short wing knows that it's not going to be a score based on his flag. Okay. Um, but we still need to finish. So in 7, I would expect that our deep wing is going to make a decision. Is this a score or is he out of bounds inside the 2, the 1, whatever it happens to be? Now, after the play is over, assuming field judge or side judge that you've seen this action, you have a responsibility to come back to your short wing before he reports to the referee. Wait a minute. What do you have on this? What do you have? Well, I've got holding number 54. John, Fred, Susie, I saw that. You know, that player had good leverage. The running back cut it inside. You're not going to like that on film. We need to think about picking that up. That's the kind of crew communication we need to have instead of going, well, wasn't my flag. No, we're going to sink or swim as a crew. So this is one we would want picked up. And we definitely would want our deep wing making a determination on what happens down around the goal line. Okay, next clip. We're going to switch to West Michigan. This was a really, really good football game. This was Rockford and Granville, two really strong teams that play good football, and they did not disappoint with this particular game. Now, again, this is a 5-person crew, and at this level with these teams, there were several clips where and I evaluated this game for West Michigan Association, and I made several comments in there about here's an example that you need to show to your league administration and your ADs why we need 7 people on this game. But that's not our purpose for these clips. It's not our purpose for including them. We're bringing them in because they're really great play situations. So let's look at this first one. This is going to be a double-double. Now, this is first half, so our back judge is initially going to be keying to the top of the screen, and we're going to get action on the slot receiver. This is going to be too quick of a transition for that back judge to really know what happened. He's going to probably see the end result with this kid on his belly, but this is something that we have to get figured out on the bottom part of the screen. This is a 5-person game, so it really came down to what the H had on this particular play. And he was occupied with a tackle and probably did not transition quickly enough to see what happened there. If this is a 7-person game, even though this is not the side judge's key, I would expect, since we don't have press coverage, that he or she would check down and have a look at this action. Now, if we follow it just from the standpoint of these 2 players, you can see that this starts out as a defensive holding, and he affects speed and balance of the player. This is not a situation where we have feet entanglement because the defensive player got to this position illegally. All right, so this is not feet entanglement. He affected speed and balance of this player. Now, typically, if this ball is not deflected out in front of the receiver, this would be DH that transitions to DPI. But because the ball is deflected prior to where it would have gotten to the receiver, we're going to stick with DH. But this is a foul that we want called because clearly this defensive back gained an unfair advantage on this particular player. Even if this was a running play or the quarterback got flushed or sacked or whatever, we would want this called as defensive holding. All right, next clip. We're going to get a snap from the 7-yard line. So we're on to number 12, Gregor. All right, so we're at the 7. So at the 7, we know that we have help with the deep wings at the goal line. Now, again, 5-person game, and this gentleman at the bottom of the screen is an excellent official. I know him personally. He is battling through an injury, has a hip injury, and If they had more bodies, he probably would not have worked this game. But he sucked it up and he actually did a good job. So we need to take that into consideration when we're looking at this goal line coverage. Let's say the snap is from the 6 rather than the 7. Well, actually, it would need to be the 5 because I believe Mark has said he wants our deep wings to stay at the goal line until it gets inside the 5-yard line. Am I right on that?
Rich, in the mechanics manual, it says the 7.
Okay, good. Then we've reverted back to what college is. All right, so let's say we've got a snap from the 6. So at the snap, what do we need to do, short wings? We need to at least get started towards the goal line. And then if necessary, we're going to come back for a forward progress spot that is back towards the line of scrimmage, or then the distance that we have to travel to get to goal line extended to cover this play at the goal line will be much shorter. And we should be able to get there and get stationary. So this is something you should be talking about within your crews in terms of how we're going to handle this. And line of scrimmage people, you should be talking to each other in terms of what the proper mechanic is to make sure that we get to that goal line to make a good decision on a timely basis. All right, next clip. What we're going to have here is it's going to come towards the top of the screen. Now, running back comes out, and you can see number 6 of the defense reaches out and grabs him, affects speed and balance, takes him to the ground. All right. This is a foul that we want called. Now, we're not going to see too many full house, 2 tight end formations. That's not something we regularly see. But regardless of the formation, in this particular case, this defensive back knows that number 6 of the offense, I believe, has him beaten. And his only solution to that is to take him down with a hold. And again, whether the quarterback is sacked, whether this is a running play, whatever it is, actually there might be a little bit of a trip in there as well. That's a foul we have to get down. That's something that we have to get a flag down on the field and penalize that action. Okay, next clip should be number 80. All right, so what we're going to get is we're going to get our left tackle, maybe it's the right tackle. It's going to initiate contact. You'll see the snap came from the 28-yard line. So he gets to the 26 by high school rules. You get 2 yards. And we want to make sure that it's a good full 2 yards. Now, the process that we use on that is we recognize that the lineman is downfield, and then we look back at the quarterback. If the quarterback still has the ball, then we know if the pass crosses the line, we've got a foul. If the ball is already gone, then we don't have a foul for an eligible downfield, at least based on where he is at that particular point. Now, if he's 6 or 7 yards downfield, well, obviously he's illegally downfield. But in this particular situation, it's so close that we want to make sure that if we're going to call ineligible downfield, that it clearly is. What we're going to get is a pass towards the top of the screen. Now, the defensive back is in chase mode. There's no question about it. And there may be a little contact there. But what we have to look at is from the standpoint is does this contact, this action take anything away from the receiver? Now, it would be best if we had a deep wing that would have a look at this, so we would get a front side and a backside look at this. But unless we've taken speed or balance away from this receiver, this is a play on. Now, coach wants it. He needed it. He was behind. Second half, he's kind of desperate, so he's up there pleading his case with the H. But here, we don't have intent to impede. And we certainly don't have anything that took anything away from the receiver. All right, this next clip is going to illustrate 116, the importance of our sideline control. Now you can see we've got coaches on the field. We've got the offense in position pretty much to snap at any point. You can see our short wing is working to keep our coaches out of the way. Now, in this particular case, the teams are far enough back. So we've done a good job with our teams. And there's something else that we can't take for granted as the season goes on. You know, if we emphasized early in the year of keeping the teams back, and we've gotten lax on that, we may run into a problem with coaches being in the white because they don't have any other place to go. So make sure that we take care of that. It seems like a small thing until something comes along where we need the ability to move freely without or with less concern for what is coming up behind us that we can't see. So good job by our short wing. You can see he releases pretty quickly. That's necessary in 5-person. Obviously, we want that kick to cross the line before our short wings think about leaving the line of scrimmage in 7. All right, 119. We've been talking all year about pre-snap routines. And here, not surprisingly, what we get is a double move, a fade move to the weak side. This should not come as a surprise to any member of the deep three. When you're looking at 3 receivers on your side of the field, can you have a fade pattern on the strong side? Absolutely. That typically is not where we get that sort of a pattern. So if you're the deep wing at the top of the screen, you see that one-on-one coverage, you should be thinking to yourself, there's a really good possibility that this could be a fade move. Now, you don't anticipate the call, but you anticipate the situation. So back judge does a nice job here transitioning from 3 receivers at the bottom of the screen to 1 receiver at the top where the ball went. That's really, really important. It's certainly critical in 5, and it's also important in 7. So back judge did a nice job here, kept moving, kept the players in front of him. All right, so we went from double-double, which would mean that our back judge is on line judge's side of the field. But then we have a motion that takes the double-double off, which means that the back judge needs to transition to the top of the screen. Now, this ball is a fade pattern on a wheel route is thrown to a running back. And I believe it's the gentleman that went in motion. So we have to be alert to that. That should be something that our short wing should see coming. And if we have that deep wing over there, this should not come as a big surprise to him or her either, because you can see that the receivers on that side of the field all ran routes into the middle of the field. Now, why did they do that? They wanted those defensive backs to follow them towards the middle of the field, which was going to make it one-on-one at best with this motion man. Who probably is pretty fast, pretty quick, and difficult to cover. And that's probably a linebacker trying to cover him, not very successfully. So those are the kinds of things that we can pick up on video, but those are the kinds of things, if you are the deep wing at the top of the screen and you see all that traffic going away from you, you should be thinking about either A, a pick, or B, that you're going to get some wheel route coming back at you, which is what happens here. All right, number 145. What we're going to get is a possible forward-backward decision to the line judge's side of the field. And then we're going to have at least three blocks that we're going to have to look at. This is one of the clips that I pointed out is so difficult in 7 or in 5 that we need 7 people. We've got 3 active engagements. Now, I don't believe there's a foul there, but there sure could have been 1 or more fouls. So what we have to do, first of all, again, we're talking about 7. So we should be looking, and deep wings, you're going to start outside in. And if you don't have an active engagement near the sideline, you're going to keep those players closest to the sideline on your outside eye, but then you're going to come back to the middle and look at that block by number 3 at the numbers. Back judges, same thing, only you work from the inside. You're going to start from the inside and then work your way towards the sideline. It's one of those things that if we don't understand what we're looking at and why we're looking there, we can lose the forest for the trees, and then we don't see anything as opposed to seeing something. Better for you to concentrate on one player and know what happened there than to try to take everyone and not have any idea what any of them did. So we would, from a 5-person perspective, I would say start at the point of attack and then work towards the sideline, taking into consideration where the point of attack eventually gets to. Hopefully that makes sense. So number 1 has it walled off. The runner cuts back to the inside. We had that play earlier. Looks like pretty good leverage here by number 1. I wouldn't trouble on that. It's not a pristine block, but certainly nothing that rises to the level of a foul. So let's go back and look at the block at the numbers. Same thing, good leverage. I might have hung on to him just a little bit there. But, is that a high enough standard for a foul? I would hope this is late in the game. This is clip 1, no, this is 145. So by now we've established a standard that the crew is following for holding, okay? So if that judgment does not rise to the level of what we've done earlier in the game, stay off of it. Crew consistency beginning to end. And then that block at about the hash mark, that no problem there. Back judge does a good job getting to the goal line and then working back. Now, we've talked about the back judge not being responsible for forward progress. So the point that I would say to the back judge on this play is stay on the goal line, keep watching bodies, watch for opposite jersey colors, remain stationary, let this thing settle, get players separated, and then if necessary, you can get involved in relaying a ball, but we move up a little too quick there. All right, I saved this clip for last. All right, now what we're going to get here. First of all, let's look at the formation. We have a double-double. So where is the back judge? Where should the back judge be shading? Hopefully what you're saying is to the bottom of the screen because that's where the line judge is based on what we just talked about. All right. But the key is everyone on the crew knows in what situation where the back judge is going to be shading, whether it's 5 or 7, because you need to know if you're on an island by yourself. As a side judge for most of my 25 years, I knew that when it was double-double, that the back judge was going to be shading away from me, which then put me and the H sort of on an island for whatever came our way. So you need to know that, and then you need to deal accordingly. But what we're going to get here is we're going to get some action by the 2 receivers at the bottom of the screen. So let's run it through the first time live. So the question is, was there picking action by team A? So the reason why I wanted to run it through live the first time is your initial reaction is really, really important in terms of what you just saw, because we can slow it down, we can go frame by frame, all of that, to determine how players reacted, all of that sort of thing. But that's not how the game is played. We got to make decisions on the field with a split-second notice, all right? So what you're going to get is that slot receiver comes out. Now the question is, does the defensive back confront him? Does the receiver seek out the defensive back? Now, I think you could make a case for the fact that the slot back comes out and seeks out the defensive back. But as you can see, the defensive back is more than willing just to kind of go along with that guy. That widest defensive back makes no effort whatsoever to get off of that and follow the guy that slants towards the middle of the field. In fact, he kind of looks at the guy behind him like, how come you didn't get that? All right. So these are the intricacies of the game that we need to look at and need to understand. But body language is certainly important. If this defensive back makes an effort to get off of that guy and chase the guy that looks like is his key, a lot of consideration is going to be given to that, and that's probably OPI. But let's put it in the context where you've got two players out in the open field, and you've got the blocker who forms up a player, and it gives every appearance that it's grab and restrict, but the defender makes no effort to get off of the block. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. All right. So here, when the defensive back does not make an effort to charge down and to stay after that widest receiver, okay, that what that tells me is that he thought that there was going to be a switch with the other defensive back. And I would say, no, this is not DPI, or excuse me, OPI. Let's get some comments about that. Anyone want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, Rich, I'll be happy to comment on that. I guess, if I'm a short wing and I see how that flanker targets that defensive back, I mean, he definitely picked them off, no question. I think, you can make a case that the defensive back gave up when the receiver cut towards the middle. He knew he didn't have a chance. And of course, you could see the reaction from the coach at the bottom of the screen, that you could see that he was signaling. So, I feel like you could make a case both ways on that. I guess I would say if one of my short wings called OPI, I would certainly support it.
Well, this is one of those plays where, and they come up every now and then, where you need a Bill Carollo or you need a Jeremy Valentine in the case of SEMSO, or in other parts of the state, your coordinator that says, this is what this should have been, or we were right on this play, and here's why. I just don't see that defensive back really all that concerned about trying to follow that guy that cut behind him. So that's the reason why this is the last clip, is that it's supposed to inspire thought and conversation among you and your crew. What is the standard for a foul? Any sort of a foul, whether it's holding, OPI, what have you. What sort of reaction are you expecting from a player that possibly might be fouled? See, Six is willing. In fact, he kind of holds on to him and dances with him for a couple of steps. See, just kind of do along with him for about 3 steps. To me, that's way too passive. He had a chance, like after the first do-si-do there, to chase after the guy, and he didn't do it. I'm going to give that defensive back every consideration if he's trying to go play the guy that it appears that was initially his responsibility. Here, I don't think he does that. I see your point, Gary. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think that the other factor is the dominant position because the defensive back gave up.
Well, actually, I certainly wanted to play devil's advocate because that same philosophy that we use there is the same philosophy our crew uses for holding. So on that philosophy alone, it's certainly something we would have passed on it for a holding call. And if we apply that same philosophy on this play, then yeah, we would certainly pass on this one. I just felt like it was good to play a little devil's advocate here.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did because, I looked at this back and forth. This was sent to me by someone out of the West Michigan chapter. And I was breaking it down, going, well, and I was going frame by frame. And I said, no, that's not how we officiate. So then I went back and I looked at it live. And when that defensive back just, is very passive and just kind of goes with the guy that might have, I think his intent was to pick him off. I don't think there's any question about his intent, but the problem was the defensive back did not make an attempt to go cover the guy that was being picked for. So good play to end on. Everything that we do is not black and white. Everything that we do are judgments. There's judgment involved in this. There are the rules, and then it's the application of the rules that we have to put into practice. So, all right, we had a few fewer clips tonight. That was intentional. We're going to try to really start narrowing this thing down as we get further into the season here. Really, maybe a few more discussion plays like what we had here at the end of the meeting tonight. And we'll see what the traffic requires based on what happens out in your games. I encourage you though to please give me clips of interest that you think potentially we can all learn from. That's where we get the best clips. I would not have had access to that last clip that we looked at without a person on our distribution list sending it to me. So that's how this works best. All right, so like at the beginning, we're heading into the season now where we really need to be clicking on all 8 cylinders or 6, depending on what you have under the hood here, or 7 in the case of our 7-people crew. How's that? But we need to have fun, but like I've said many times before, the better you do this, the more fun it is. So continue to prepare, go into games as prepared as you possibly can, and make sure you stick together. Make sure that you have information, that you're sharing it so that we don't have regrets afterwards. All right, so we'll see you next week, 7 o'clock Monday night, and good luck this week. All the best. Thank you, everyone.